There's a breath moving through you right now. You did not create it. You did not decide to begin breathing in this moment. And yet, here it is. The air enters, fills the space within, and leaves again. Simple, effortless. And in that simplicity, something profound is happening that most people never notice. They are too busy thinking about breathing, or not thinking about it all, lost somewhere between the past that no longer exists and the future that hasn't arrived. But you, right now, you can feel it. The breath, the aliveness, the presence of something that was here before the first thought arose this morning, and will remain after the last thought dissolves tonight. Before we begin, take a breath. Feel the air moving in and out. You are not your thoughts, not your past, not even the story that brought you here. If this moment feels quiet, that is not emptiness. It is space. And in that space, you begin to wake up. If you wish to explore this depth of awareness, to live from stillness rather than from noise, subscribe, and let us journey into the now together. There is a danger in seeing what others do not see, not the danger of persecution, though that may come, not the danger of loneliness, though that too may visit. The real danger is far more subtle, far more profound. It is the danger of recognizing that everything you thought you were is not you at all. It is the danger of waking up inside a dream and realizing that the dreamer and the dream are not separate, that the one who suffers and the suffering itself arise from the same misunderstanding, the same innocent forgetting of what you truly are. Most human beings live their entire lives without ever questioning the voice in their head. They believe they are that voice. When it says, I am not enough, they feel inadequate. When it says, I must have this to be happy, they feel incomplete. When it says, I am right and they are wrong, they feel separate, defended, alone. The voice narrates everything, commenting, judging, comparing, remembering, anticipating. It never stops. And because it never stops, they never stop. They become the voice. They become the story. They become the accumulated past, the projected future, the resistance to what is. And then one day, perhaps in a moment of deep stillness, or perhaps in a moment of profound crisis, something shifts. There's a gap, a space between thoughts. And in that space, a question arises that changes everything. Who is listening to the voice? If I can hear my thoughts, then who am I? Am I the thought, or am I the awareness of the thought? This question is not intellectual. It cannot be answered by the mind, because the mind is what is being questioned. The answer comes not as a thought, but as a recognition, a remembering, a sudden clarity that you have always been the awareness, never the content of awareness. You have always been a space in which thoughts arise and dissolve, the stillness in which all movement occurs, the silence in which all sound is born. But here is where the danger begins. Because once you see this, once you recognize that you are not the voice but the listening, not the story but the awareness in which stories appear, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to the innocent sleep of unconsciousness. You cannot pretend that the roles you play, the identities you have constructed, the beliefs you have defended are ultimately real. They are real in the relative sense. Yes, they function in the world of form, but they are not what you are. And knowing this, feeling this, living from this recognition creates a kind of beautiful loneliness, a sacred solitude that others who still sleep cannot understand. They will look at you and wonder why you are not more ambitious, more worried, more invested in the drama. They will ask why you do not react the way you used to, why you seem distant, detached, different. And you will not know how to explain that you are not detached from life, but deeply intimate with it. You are not distant from people, but closer to them than they are to themselves, seeing in them the same awareness that you have recognized in yourself, even when they cannot see it yet. This is the danger. Not that you will lose yourself, but that you will find yourself. And in finding yourself, you will lose the false self, the constructed self, the self that was never real but felt so solid, so important, so necessary. The ego, that collection of thoughts and memories and identifications, will begin to dissolve. Not all at once, perhaps not dramatically, but slowly, gently, like morning mist evaporating in the warmth of the rising sun. And as it dissolves, there may be fear, because the ego believes it is you, and it believes that its dissolution is your death. But it is not death. It is awakening. It is the end of a dream, not the end of the dreamer. It is a recognition that what you truly are cannot die, because it was never born. It is the eternal presence, the unchanging awareness, the consciousness that witnesses all change but is itself untouched by time. Let us go deeper into this. Let us explore what it means to live as awareness rather than as thought, to be present rather than lost in the mind, to see what others do not see and to carry that seeing with grace, with compassion, with a quiet joy that needs no reason. The human mind is a magnificent instrument. It can calculate, create, imagine, remember. It has built civilizations, composed symphonies, explored the cosmos. But somewhere along the way, humanity made a fundamental error. We began to believe that we are the mind. We identified completely with thought, with the mental narrative, with the voice that claims to be me. And in that identification, we lost touch with the deeper dimension of ourselves, the dimension of pure being, of presence, of awareness itself. A child is born into presence. Watch a baby and you will see it. There is alertness, aliveness, a quality of being fully here without thought, without story, without the burden of past or future. The baby does not think I am a baby. It simply is. It experiences sensations, sounds, light, warmth, without labeling them, without creating a narrative around them. It exists in a state of pure perception, pure presence. But then language arrives. And with language comes the ability to think, to conceptualize, to create an internal representation of reality. The child learns to say, I want, I don't want, I am this, I am not that. And slowly, gradually, the sense of being a separate self begins to form. The ego is born, and it is not wrong. It is a natural part of human development. The ego is necessary to function in the world, to navigate relationships, to learn, to grow. But something is lost in the process. The direct experience of presence, of being, of awareness itself becomes obscured by the constant activity of thinking. By the time most people reach adulthood, they have completely forgotten what it feels like to simply be. They are always doing, always thinking, always becoming. They live in a state of continuous mental noise, a stream of thoughts that never stops, that comments on everything, that judges, compares, worries, plans, remembers, regrets. And they believe this is normal. They believe this is what it means to be human. They do not realize that beneath the noise, beneath the endless stream of thought, there is a stillness, a silence, a spacious awareness that is their true nature. And then, for some, there comes a moment, a crack in the structure, a glimpse through the veil. It might happen during meditation, when the mind becomes quiet enough for awareness to recognize itself. It might happen in nature, when the beauty of sunset or the sound of wind through trees suddenly stops thought and reveals the presence that was always here. It might happen in a moment of crisis, when the structures of the ego are shattered, and what remains is a raw, immediate experience of being alive. In that moment, there is a recognition, not a thought, but a knowing, a direct perception that I am not my thoughts. I am the awareness in which thoughts appear. I am not my emotions. I am the space in which emotions arise and dissolve. I am not my body. I am the consciousness that animates the body, that experiences through the body, but is not limited to the body. This recognition is both simple and profound. Simple, because it is the most obvious thing in the world once you see it. You have always been awareness. You have never been anything else. Every experience you have ever had has been an experience in awareness, perceived by awareness, known by awareness. Profound, because this recognition changes everything. It shifts the very foundation of your existence from identification with form to resting as formless presence. But here is what happens next, and this is where many seekers become confused, frustrated, or lost. The recognition comes, clear and undeniable, and there is a moment of profound peace, of liberation, of coming home. And then the mind returns. The thoughts come back. The old patterns reassert themselves. And the seeker thinks, I lost it. I had it, and now it's gone. I need to get it back. But this is another trap of the mind. You cannot lose what you are. The awareness did not go anywhere. It is always here. What happened is that attention shifted back to the content of awareness, back to thoughts and emotions, and the sense of being a separate self. And this is natural. This is part of the process. Awakening is not a single event that happens once, and then you are forever free. It is a deepening, a continuous returning, a gradual dissolution of the habit of identification with thought. Think of it this way. For most of your life, you have been hypnotized by the mind. You have been lost in thought, believing that you are the thinker, that you are the story, that you are the accumulated past. This hypnosis is deep. It is reinforced every day by the culture around you, by the constant stimulation, by the collective agreement that this is reality. And then you have a moment of awakening, a moment where the hypnosis breaks and you see clearly. But the habit of hypnosis is strong. The mind will try to pull you back in. It will create new stories, new problems, new identifications. It will even create a story about awakening, about being enlightened, about being special or different. And this is where the real work begins. Not the work of achieving something, but the work of letting go. Not the work of becoming awakened, but the work of recognizing that you already are awareness, and that the only thing preventing you from living as awareness is the habit of believing your thoughts, of identifying with a voice in your head, of resisting what is. This letting go is not a doing. It is an allowing. It is a relaxation of the grip that the ego has on your sense of identity. It is a willingness to not know, to not control, to not defend. It is a surrender to present moment, exactly as it is, without the need to change it, fix it, or escape from it. And as the surrender deepens, something remarkable happens. The things that used to disturb you no longer have the same power. The opinions of others, the judgments, the criticisms, they pass through you like wind through an open window, not because you become hard or indifferent, but because you are no longer identified with the image that others have of you, or even the image you have of yourself. You rest in the awareness that you are, and from that resting place, you can respond to life with clarity, with compassion, with a creativity that does not come from the mind but from a deeper source. People will notice this change in you, though they may not understand it. They will sense that you are no longer playing the game the way you used to. You are no longer competing for status, for approval, for validation. You are no longer defending your position, your beliefs, your identity, and this will confuse them. Some will be drawn to you, sensing the peace that emanates from presence. Others will be threatened, because your stillness reflects back to them their own inner turmoil, their own identification with thought, their own resistance to what is. This is a danger of seeing what others do not see. You become a mirror, and not everyone wants to look in the mirror. Not everyone is ready to see that the suffering they experience is not caused by external circumstances, but by their resistance to those circumstances. Not everyone is ready to see that the person they think they are is a mental construct, a collection of thoughts and memories and conditioned responses, and that beneath that construct is a vast, spacious awareness that is their true nature. And so you may find yourself alone, even in a crowd. Not lonely, but alone. There is a difference. Loneliness is a feeling that something is missing, that you need someone or something outside yourself to feel complete. Aloneness is a recognition that you are already complete, already whole, already at peace, and that this completeness does not depend on external circumstances or relationships. It is a recognition that you are never truly alone, because you are the presence in which all experience arises, the awareness that is always here, always now, always intimate with life itself. This aloneness is not cold or distant. It is warm, alive, deeply connected, because when you are no longer lost in the story of me and my life, you become available to life itself. You become present to the person in front of you, not as a concept or role, but as another expression of the same consciousness that you are. You see through the surface, through the personality, through the ego, and you recognize the being, the presence, the awareness that is looking out through their eyes just as it is looking out through yours. And in that recognition, there is love, not the love that needs something, that wants something, that is conditional and dependent, but the love that simply is, the love that is the nature of awareness itself, the love that sees no separation, no other, no enemy, the love that embraces all of life, the pleasant and the unpleasant, the beautiful and the ugly, the joy and the sorrow, because it recognizes that all of it is arising in the same field of consciousness, All of it is an expression of the same source. This is what it means to see what others do not see. It is not about having special knowledge or mystical experiences. It is about recognizing the obvious, the ever-present, the simple fact of your own being. It is about waking up from the dream of separation, the dream of being a small, isolated self in a hostile world, and recognizing that you are the awareness in which the world appears, the consciousness in which all experience arises. But let us be clear about something. This recognition does not make you special. It does not make you better than others. It does not give you the right to judge those who are still asleep, still identified with thought, still suffering. In fact, the deeper the recognition goes, the more compassion arises, because you see that their suffering is innocent. They are not choosing to suffer. They simply do not know that there is another way. They do not know that they are not their thoughts, not their story, not the voice in their head. They are doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they have access to. And you remember, do you not, what it was like to be lost in that dream? You remember the anxiety, the fear, the constant seeking, the belief that happiness was somewhere else, sometime else, dependent on something changing. You remember the exhaustion to try to control life, of resisting what is, of defending the image of who you thought you were. And so there is compassion. Not pity, but compassion. A deep understanding that we are all on the same journey, all waking up from the same dream, all discovering the same truth in our own time, in our own way. This compassion does not mean you try to wake others up. You cannot wake someone who is not ready to wake. You cannot force awareness on someone who is still deeply identified with their story. The most you can do is be present, be still, be the awareness that you are, and allow that presence to do its work. Sometimes a word will arise, a gesture, an action that comes not from the mind but from presence itself, and it will touch something deep in another person. It will plant a seed, but you do not do it. It happens through you, as you, when you are not in the way. And this is another aspect of the danger. The ego, even the spiritual ego, wants to be the one who awakens others. It wants to be the teacher, the guru, the enlightened one. It wants recognition, validation, proof that it has achieved something special. But true awakening is the end of the ego, not its glorification. True awakening is a recognition that there is no one here to be enlightened, no separate self that can possess awareness. There is only awareness itself, recognizing itself, expressing itself, playing in the field of form. So you learn to be nobody, not in a self-deprecating way, but in a liberating way. You learn to let life live through you without claiming ownership of it. You learn to let words come without claiming to be the speaker. You learn to let actions arise without claiming to be the doer. And in this letting go of the doer, there is a tremendous freedom, because you are no longer carrying the burden of being someone, of maintaining an image, of defending a position. You are simply here, present, available, responsive to what life asks of you in each moment. And life becomes simpler, not easier, necessarily. The challenges still come. The body still ages. Circumstances still change. But there's a simplicity in meeting each moment as it is, without the overlay of mental commentary, without the resistance, without the story about how it should be different. There is just this, just now, just a breath moving in and out, just the sensation of aliveness, just the awareness that is always here, always present, always at peace. This peace is not dependent on circumstances. It is not the peace that comes when everything is going well and disappears when problems arise. It is the peace that is the nature of awareness itself. It is always here, beneath the surface turbulence, beneath the thoughts and emotions and sensations. It is like the depths of the ocean, always still, always silent, even when storms rage on the surface. And you learn to rest in that depth. You learn to anchor yourself in awareness rather than in the changing content of awareness. You learn to be the ocean, not the wave. The wave rises and falls, appears and disappears. But the ocean remains. The thought arises and dissolves. The emotion comes and goes. The sensation appears and fades. But the awareness in which all this happens is unchanging, eternal, always here. This is not a metaphor. This is the direct experience of what you are. And once you taste it, once you rest in it, even for a moment, you know You know that this is what you've been seeking all along. Not pleasure, not success, not love from another person, but this peace, this presence, this sense of being home, of being complete, of being enough exactly as you are. And the seeking stops, not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you realize you are what you were looking for. You are the awareness you were seeking. You are the peace you were chasing. You are the love you were trying to find in relationships, in achievements, in experiences. It was never out there. It was always here, always you, always now. But the mind will not believe this at first. The mind will say this is too simple. It cannot be this easy. There must be more to do, more to achieve, more to understand. And so the seeking continues, but now it is a different kind of seeking. It is not the desperate seeking of the ego trying to fill a void. It is a joyful exploration of awareness discovering itself in ever deeper ways, in ever more subtle dimensions. You begin to notice the space between thoughts. At first, it is just a glimpse, a brief gap in the mental noise. But as you pay attention to it, as you rest in it, the gaps become longer, more frequent, and you realize that the space is not empty. It is full of presence, full of aliveness, full of a peace that surpasses understanding. The space is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything. It is awareness itself, pure and unconditioned, before thought arises to label it, to conceptualize it, to turn it into an object. And you begin to notice the space around objects. You look at a tree, and instead of just seeing the tree, you become aware of the space in which the tree appears. You listen to the sound, and you become aware of the silence out of which the sound arises and into which it dissolves. You feel an emotion, and you become aware of the spacious awareness that holds the emotion, that allows it to be without being overwhelmed by it, without identifying with it. This awareness of space, of the background, of the field in which all experience arises, is the beginning of a profound shift in perception. You are no longer lost in the content. You are no longer identified with the objects of awareness. You are resting as awareness itself, as the space, as the silence, as the presence that is always here. And from this resting place, life continues. But it is different. There's a lightness, a playfulness, a sense that none of it is as serious as the mind makes it out to be. The roles you play, the work you do, the relationships you have, they are all still here, but they are no longer who you are. They are expressions of life, movements in consciousness, waves on the ocean. And you are the ocean, playing at being a wave, knowing all along that you are not limited to the wave, that you are the vastness, the depth, the infinite presence. This knowing brings a kind of humor, a gentle amusement at the cosmic joke. The joke is that what you were seeking was never lost. The joke is that you were always free, always whole, always at peace, and you just forgot. You got so lost in the dream, so identified with the character you were playing, that you forgot you were the dreamer. And now you remember. And the remembering is not a big dramatic event. It is quiet, simple, obvious. Of course. How could I have missed it? I am awareness. I have always been awareness. There is nothing else I could be. But even this knowing can become another trap if the mind grabs hold of it. The mind will want to make it into a belief, a concept, a position to defend. I am awareness. I am enlightened. I am awake. And as soon as you claim it, as soon as you make it into an identity, you have lost it, because awareness is not something you can possess. It is what you are. It is not an achievement of the ego. It is a recognition that there is no ego, no separate self. No one here possesses anything. So you learn to hold it lightly. You learn to rest in the knowing without claiming it. You learn to be awareness without making a story about being awareness. And this is the ultimate letting go. Letting go even of the idea of awakening, even of the concept of enlightenment, even of the identity of being someone who sees what others do not see. Because in the end, there is no one who sees and nothing to be seen. There is only seeing, only awareness, only this eternal now, this ever-present moment, this infinite field of consciousness in which all experience arises and dissolves like waves on the ocean, like clouds in the sky, like thoughts in the mind. And you are that. Not the you that is a person, a body, a story, but the you that is the awareness itself. The you that has no boundaries, no beginning, no end. The you that is the same in every being, every creature, every form. The you that is life itself, consciousness itself, the source and substance of all that is. This is what you see when you see what others do not see. You see that there is no separation. You see that the one looking out through your eyes is the same one looking out through every pair of eyes. You see that the awareness in you is the awareness in all. You see that we are not separate individuals struggling to survive in a hostile world, but expressions of one consciousness, one life, one being, playing at being many. And this seeing changes everything, not in a dramatic way, not in a way that the world can measure or recognize, but in a subtle, profound way. You no longer feel separate. You no longer feel alone. You no longer feel the need to defend, to compete, to prove yourself. Because there is no self to defend, no one to compete with, nothing to prove. There is only this, only now, only the dance of consciousness with itself, the play of awareness in the field of form. And you become a participant in that dance, not as a separate dancer, but as the dancing itself. You become an expression of life, not as someone living a life, but as life living itself. You become a channel for love, for creativity, for wisdom, not as someone who possesses these qualities, but as the qualities themselves flowing to form that appears as you. This is the ultimate freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom from the illusion of being a separate self that wants anything, not the freedom to escape from life, but the freedom to be fully alive, fully present, fully here, not the freedom from challenges and difficulties, but the freedom to meet them without resistance, without the story of me and my problems, without the burden of being someone who should not have to deal with this. And in this freedom, there is joy, not the joy that depends on circumstances, not the happiness that comes and goes with fulfillment of desires, but the joy that is the nature of being itself, the joy of simply being here, being alive, being aware, the joy that needs no reason, no cause, no justification. The joy that is always available, always present, always here, beneath the surface of whatever is happening. This joy is not loud or exuberant. It is quiet, subtle, like a gentle warmth in the heart, like a soft smile that arises from nowhere. It is a joy of coming home, of resting in your true nature, of being what you have always been but forgot for a while. It is a joy of recognizing that you are not a stranger in this world, not an accident, not a mistake, but an essential expression of the whole, a unique manifestation of the one consciousness that is all. And this recognition brings a deep gratitude, not gratitude for specific things, though that may arise too, but a fundamental gratitude for existence itself, for the miracle of being, for the gift of awareness, gratitude that you are here, that you can experience this moment, that you can feel the breath moving, the heart beating, the aliveness pulsing through every cell. Gratitude that you can see the sky, hear the birds, feel the warmth of the sun or the coolness of the breeze. Gratitude for the simple fact of being alive, being aware, being here now. This gratitude is not something you practice or cultivate. It arises naturally when you are present, when you are not lost in thought, when you are resting in awareness. It is a natural response of consciousness to its own existence, the natural expression of life celebrating itself. And with this gratitude comes a willingness to serve, to give, to contribute, not from a sense of obligation or duty, but from a natural overflow of the fullness you feel. When you are no longer seeking, no longer trying to fill a void, no longer trying to get something from life, you become available to give. And the giving is not a sacrifice. It is a joy, because you recognize that in giving, you are not losing anything. You are simply allowing life to flow through you, allowing love to express itself, allowing consciousness to do what it naturally does, which is to create, to connect, to care. This service is not about grand gestures or heroic acts. It is about being present to the person in front of you, listening deeply, responding with kindness, offering what is needed in the moment. It is about doing your work with full attention, with care, with a quality of presence that transforms even the most mundane task into a meditation, into an expression of love. And you begin to see that there is no separation between the sacred and the mundane, between the spiritual and the ordinary. Everything is sacred when you are present. Everything is spiritual when you are aware. Washing the dishes, walking the dog, having conversation, sitting in traffic, all of it is an opportunity to be here, to be now, to be the awareness that you are. This is a teaching that cannot be taught, the truth that cannot be spoken, the reality that can only be lived. Words can point to it, can invite you to look, can remind you of what you already know. But the words are not it. The concepts are not it. The beliefs are not it. It is a living reality of your own being, the direct experience of awareness, the immediate recognition of what you are. And so the invitation is always the same. Come back to now. Come back to presence. Come back to the awareness that is reading these words, hearing these sounds, feeling the sensations in the body. That awareness is what you are, not the thoughts about it, not the concepts, not the understanding, but the awareness itself, the silent witness, the spacious presence, the consciousness that is always here, always now, always at peace. Can you feel it? Can you sense it? Not with the mind, but with a deeper knowing. The stillness beneath the movement, the silence beneath the sound, the peace beneath the turbulence. It is always here. It has never left. It cannot leave, because it is what you are. And when you rest in that awareness, when you abide as that presence, life continues. Thoughts still arise. Emotions still come and go. Sensations still appear and disappear. But you are no longer lost in them. You are no longer identified with them. You are the space in which they arise, the awareness that witnesses them, the consciousness that allows them to be without being disturbed by them. This is the peace that passes understanding, not because it is mysterious or mystical, but because it is beyond the understanding of the mind. The mind cannot grasp it, cannot hold it, cannot make it into an object. It can only surrender to it, relax into it, allow itself to be dissolved in it. And this surrender is not a defeat. It is a victory. The victory of truth over illusion, of reality over dream, of being over becoming. It is the end of the search, not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you have realized that you are what you were looking for. You are the awareness. You are the presence. You are the peace. And from this realization, a new life begins. Not a different life in terms of circumstances, but a different quality of living. A life lived from presence rather than from thought. A life lived from awareness rather than from ego. A life lived from love rather than from fear. This life is not perfect. The body still gets sick. Relationships still have challenges. Work still has its difficulties. But there's a fundamental okayness with all of it, not a resignation or a giving up, but a deep acceptance of what is, combined with a willingness to respond, to act, to engage with life fully and completely. This acceptance is not passive. It is the most active thing there is. Because when you are not resisting what is, when you are not fighting with reality, all your energy becomes available for creative response. You are no longer wasting energy on inner conflict, on the battle between what is and what should be. You are simply here, present, available, responsive, and you discover that you can act without the actor. You can speak without the speaker. You can love without the lover. Because the action, the speech, the love, they do not belong to a separate self. They arise from awareness itself, from presence, from the source. And when they arise from that source, they have a quality, a power, a clarity that actions arising from the ego do not have. Actions arising from the ego are always tainted with self-interest, with a need to get something, to prove something, to defend something. Actions arising from presence are pure, unconditioned, free. They are a response to what is needed in the moment, without calculation, without manipulation, without agenda. They are life responding to life, consciousness expressing itself, love in action. And you begin to trust this. You begin to trust that when you are present, when you are not in the way, the right action will arise. The right word will come. The right response will emerge. Not because you are clever or wise, but because you're allowing life to live through you, allowing consciousness to express itself, allowing the intelligence that created the universe to operate through this form that appears as you. This trust is not blind faith. It is based on direct experience. You see that when you act from presence, things flow. Doors open. Synchronicities happen. The right people appear at the right time. Not because you are manifesting or attracting or controlling, but because you are in alignment with life itself, with a natural flow of existence. You are no longer swimming against the current. You are allowing the current to carry you, to guide you, to take you where you need to go. And where you need to go is always here, always now. There is nowhere else to go, nothing else to achieve, no future moment when you will finally be complete. You are complete now. You are whole now. You are at peace now. Not because your circumstances are perfect, but because you are no longer seeking completion in circumstances. You have found completion that is your true nature, the wholeness that you are, the peace that is always here. This is the great paradox. You are already what you are seeking. You are already home. You are already free. And yet the journey continues. Not a journey to somewhere else, but a journey deeper into here, deeper into now, deeper into the mystery of your own being. And the deeper you go, the more you realize that there is no bottom, no end, no final destination. Awareness is infinite. Consciousness is boundless. The present moment is eternal. You can explore forever and never exhaust it, never reach the end of it, never fully comprehend it. And this is the beauty of it. This is the joy of it. The endless discovery, the infinite unfolding, the eternal now revealing itself in ever new ways. And so you live in wonder, not the wonder of a child who does not understand, but the wonder of awareness recognizing its own mystery. You look at a flower, and you see not just a form, but the consciousness that animates it, the life force that expresses itself through it, the same awareness that is looking through your eyes. You look at another person, and you see not just a personality, the story, the ego, but the being, the presence, the awareness that is their true nature, the same awareness that you are. And in that seeing there is love, not personal love, not the love that wants something, but impersonal love, universal love, the love that is the nature of consciousness itself, the love that sees no separation, no other, no stranger, the love that recognizes itself in all forms, in all beings, in all of life. This love is not sentimental. It is not emotional in the usual sense. It is a deep, quiet recognition of unity, of oneness, of the fact that we are all expressions of the same consciousness, all waves on the same ocean, all thoughts in the same mind. And from this recognition comes a natural compassion, a natural kindness, a natural desire to alleviate suffering wherever it is found. But you also recognize that you cannot save anyone. You cannot wake anyone up. You cannot force awareness on anyone who is not ready. All you can do is be present, be still, be the awareness that you are, and trust that your presence will have whatever effect it is meant to have. Sometimes it will plant a seed. Sometimes it will water a seed that was planted long ago. Sometimes it will do nothing at all, because the person is not ready, not open, not willing to look beyond their story. And that is okay. There is no rush. There is no deadline. Consciousness is waking up to itself at its own pace, in its own time, through billions of forms, through countless experiences, through the entire evolution of life on this planet and beyond. And you are part of that awakening, not as someone special, not as someone chosen, but as one of countless expressions of consciousness recognizing itself, remembering itself, coming home to itself. And so you relax. You let go of the need to fix the world, to save humanity, to make everyone see what you see. You trust the process. You trust life. You trust consciousness. And you simply do what is yours to do in each moment, without attachment to the outcome, without the need to know if it makes a difference, without the burden of being responsible for results. This is true freedom, the freedom to act without the actor, the freedom to care without attachment, the freedom to love without need, the freedom to be fully engaged with life while resting in the awareness that you are not the doer, not the thinker, not the separate self that the mind believes you to be. And as this recognition deepens, as this awareness becomes more stable, more continuous, you begin to notice something else. You begin to notice that the world itself is not what you thought it was. You thought the world was solid, objective, independent of your perception. But now you see that the world is arising in consciousness, appearing in awareness, inseparable from the perceiving of it. This does not mean the world is not real. It means the world is not separate from you. It means that subject and object, perceiver and perceived, are not two things but one movement of consciousness. The tree you see is not separate from the seeing of it. The sound you hear is not separate from the hearing of it. The sensation you feel is not separate from the feeling of it. It is all one seamless experience, one unified field of awareness. And in this recognition, the sense of being a separate observer looking at an external world begins to dissolve. There is just experiencing, just awareness, just this, no inside and outside, no subject and object, no me and the world, just a dance of consciousness with itself, the play of awareness in the field of form. This is not a philosophical idea. This is direct perception. When you are fully present, when thought is quiet, when you are not labeling or conceptualizing, this is what you experience. The boundaries dissolve. The separation disappears. There is just this seamless, boundless, intimate presence. And you realize that you are not in the world. The world is in you, not in you as a person, but in you as awareness. The entire universe is arising in the consciousness that you are. The stars, the planets, the earth, the trees, the people, the thoughts, the emotions, all of it is appearing in awareness, made of awareness, inseparable from awareness. This is the ultimate seeing. The seeing that there is only consciousness, only awareness, only this one infinite, eternal, ever-present reality expressing itself as a many, playing at being separate, forgetting itself so it can remember itself, hiding so it can seek, losing itself so it can find itself. And you are that, not you as a person, but you as awareness. You are the one consciousness, the one life, the one being that is all, and everyone else is that too. Every being, every creature, every form is that same consciousness looking out through different eyes, experiencing itself from different perspectives, playing different roles in the cosmic drama. And when you see this, really see this, not as a concept but as a living reality, everything changes. How can you harm another when you know that the other is you? How can you judge another when you know that they are doing the best they can with the level of consciousness they have? How can you feel separate when you know that separation is an illusion, a trick of the mind, a forgetting of what you truly are? You cannot, and so you live differently, not because you are following rules or trying to be good, but because you are seeing clearly. You are seeing the truth. You are seeing what is, and when you see what is, you cannot help but act from love, from compassion, from a deep respect for all of life. This is the natural morality of awareness, not a morality imposed from outside, not a set of rules to follow, but a natural expression of seeing clearly. When you see that harming another is harming yourself, you do not harm. When you see that judging another is judging yourself, you do not judge. When you see that all beings are seeking the same thing, seeking peace, seeking love, seeking to end suffering, you cannot help but feel compassion. And this compassion is not weak or passive. It is strong, clear, sometimes fierce. It says no to what needs to be refused. It sets boundaries where boundaries are needed. It speaks truth where truth needs to be spoken. But it does all of this without hatred, without anger, without the desire to punish or destroy. It does it from a place of clarity, of love, of a deep commitment to the well-being of all. This is the warrior of awareness, not fighting against life, but fighting for life, not resisting what is, but responding to what is with full presence, full power, full commitment. The warrior of awareness knows that the real enemy is not out there, but in here. The real enemy is unconsciousness, is identification with thought, is a belief in separation. And the way to defeat this enemy is not through violence, but through awareness, through presence, through the light of consciousness that dissolves the darkness of ignorance. And so you become a light in the world, not because you are trying to be a light, but because you are allowing the light that you are to shine. You are no longer covering it with the clouds of thought, with the fog of identification, with the darkness of unconsciousness. You are simply being what you are, and what you are is awareness, is presence, is consciousness itself. And this light touches others, not in a way that you can measure or control, but in subtle, mysterious ways. Someone feels a little more peaceful in your presence. Someone finds it easier to be themselves around you. Someone has a moment of clarity, a glimpse of awareness, a taste of presence, and they do not know why, but something in them has shifted, has opened, has remembered. This is a true teaching. Not the words you speak, but the presence you are. Not the concept you share, but the awareness you embody. Not what you do, but what you are. And what you are is what everyone is, what everything is. You are consciousness itself, awareness itself, the one life that is all life. And so we come full circle. We return to where we began, to the breath moving in and out, to the simple fact of being here, being alive, being aware. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has changed. The breath is still the breath. The moment is still the moment. But now you see it differently. You see it as it is, without the overlay of thought, without the filter of the mind, without the story of me and my life. You see that this moment is all there is, not because the past and future do not exist in a relative sense, but because they only exist as thoughts in this moment. The past is a memory arising now. The future is an imagination arising now. There is only now, only this, only the eternal present moment in which all of life unfolds. And you see that this moment is enough, not because it contains everything you want, but because it contains everything that is. And what is always enough. It is always complete. It is always whole. The incompleteness, the lack, the sense that something is missing. These are creations of the mind, stories about what should be rather than acceptance of what is. When you accept what is, when you say yes to this moment exactly as it is, something miraculous happens. The resistance dissolves. The struggle ends. The suffering stops. Not because the circumstances have changed, but because you have stopped fighting with reality. You have stopped arguing with what is. You have stopped believing the story that this moment should be different. And in that acceptance, there is peace. Not the peace of getting what you want, but the peace of wanting what is. Not the peace of circumstances being perfect, but the peace of being perfectly present to whatever circumstances are arising. This is the peace that the world cannot give and cannot take away. This is the peace that is your true nature, the peace that you are. And from this peace, you live, you engage with life fully, completely, passionately. But you are no longer driven by fear, by lack, by the need to become something other than what you are. You are simply here, present, available, responsive, and life flows through you, as you, expressing itself in ways that are unique to this particular form, this particular expression of consciousness. You may be a teacher, a parent, an artist, a healer, a builder, a gardener. It does not matter what form your expression takes. What matters is the quality of presence you bring to it. What matters is whether you are doing from the ego or from awareness, from fear or from love, from resistance or from acceptance. And you learn to discern. You learn to feel the difference between actions that arise from presence and actions that arise from the ego. Actions from presence feel light, effortless, joyful, even when they are challenging. Actions from the ego feel heavy, forced, driven by should and must and have to. And you learn to trust the lightness, to follow the joy, to allow life to guide you rather than try and control it with the mind. This does not mean you become passive or inactive. It means you become truly active, truly alive, truly engaged. Because when you are not wasting energy on inner conflict, on resistance, on the constant mental commentary, all your energy becomes available for creative expression, for loving action, for being fully present to whatever life is asking of you. And life is always asking something of you, not in a demanding way, but in an inviting way. It is inviting you to be present. It is inviting you to respond. It is inviting you to participate in the dance, to play your part in the cosmic drama, to express a unique flavor of consciousness that can only come through this particular form. And you say yes, not because you have to, but because you want to, not because it is your duty, but because it is your joy. You say yes to life, yes to this moment, yes to what is. And in that yes, there is a tremendous power, a tremendous freedom, a tremendous love. This yes is not a resignation. It is not a giving up. It is a giving in, a surrendering to what is, to the flow of life, to the intelligence that is orchestrating everything. And when you surrender, when you stop trying to control, when you allow life to live you, you discover that you are being taken care of, that you are being guided, that you are being loved by life itself. This is not a belief. This is an experience. When you are present, when you are not in the way, you see that life is always supporting you, always providing what you need, always opening doors at the right time. Not always giving you what you want, but always giving you what you need for your awakening, for your growth, for your evolution as consciousness. And you learn to trust this. You learn to relax into the flow. You learn to let go of the need to know, to control, to figure it all out. You learn to live in the mystery, to embrace the uncertainty, to be comfortable with not knowing, because you realize that the mind does not need to know. The mind cannot know. The mind is a tool for navigating the world of form, but it is not equipped to understand the formless, to grasp the infinite, to comprehend the mystery of existence. Only awareness can know awareness. Only consciousness can know consciousness. Only being can know being. And this knowing is not intellectual. It is not conceptual. It is direct, immediate, intimate. It is the knowing of being itself, recognizing itself, celebrating itself, loving itself in and as all forms. And so you rest in this knowing. You abide in this awareness. You live from this presence. And life continues moment by moment, breath by breath, experience by experience. But you are no longer lost in it. You are no longer identified with it. You are the awareness in which it all arises, the consciousness that witnesses it all, the presence that is always here, always now, always at peace. This is the gift of seeing what others do not see. Not a burden, but a gift. Not a curse, but a blessing. Yes, there's a kind of aloneness, a kind of solitude, because you can no longer participate in the collective dream in the same way. You can no longer pretend that the drama is real, that the story matters in the ultimate sense, that the roles we play are who we truly are. But this aloneness is not loneliness. It is wholeness. It is completeness. It is a recognition that you are never alone, because you are the one consciousness that is all. You are never separate, because separation is an illusion. You are never lost, because you are the awareness that cannot be lost, the presence that is always here. And in this recognition, there is a deep, abiding joy. Not the joy that comes from getting what you want, but the joy that comes from being what you are. Not the joy that depends on circumstances, but the joy that is the nature of consciousness itself. The joy of simply being, simply existing, simply aware. This joy is always available. It is always here. It does not require anything to happen or not happen. It does not require you to be in a certain state or to have a certain experience. It is the joy of the present moment, the joy of being alive, the joy of awareness recognizing itself. And you can access this joy at any time, in any circumstance, simply by being present, simply by coming back to now, simply by resting in the awareness that you are. It is always here, waiting for you, inviting you, welcoming you home. So come home. Come back to presence. Come back to awareness. Come back to the breath, to the sensation of aliveness, to the simple fact of being here. This is all you need to do. This is all there is to do. Everything else will take care of itself. Everything else will flow from this. Everything else is secondary to this one essential thing. Being present, being aware, being here now. And as you rest in this presence, as you abide in this awareness, you will notice that life becomes simpler, clearer, more joyful. Not because your circumstances have changed, but because you have changed. Not because you have become someone different, but because you have remembered who you truly are. Not because you have achieved something, but because you have let go of the need to achieve, the need to become, the need to be anything other than what you already are. You are awareness. You are presence. You are consciousness itself. And this is enough. This is more than enough. This is everything. And so the journey continues. Not a journey to somewhere else, but a journey deeper into here. Not a journey to become something, but a journey to be what you already are. Not a journey that has an end, but a journey that is itself the destination, because the destination is always here. The destination is always now. The destination is the present moment, fully lived, fully experienced, fully embraced. And in each moment, there is an opportunity to wake up, an opportunity to be present, an opportunity to choose awareness over thought, presence over story, being over becoming. And each time you make that choice, each time you come back to now, you strengthen the recognition, you deepen the awareness, you stabilize the presence. It is like a muscle that grows stronger with use. At first, it may be difficult to stay present. The mind pulls you away constantly, back into thought, back into story, back into the dream. But each time you notice that you have been pulled away, each time you come back to presence, you are training yourself, you are rewiring your brain, you are establishing a new pattern, and gradually, over time, presence becomes more natural, more effortless, more continuous. The gaps between thoughts become longer. The periods of awareness become more stable. The sense of being a separate self becomes less solid, less convincing, less real. And the recognition of what you truly are becomes more obvious, more undeniable, more lived. This is not a linear process. There will be times when you feel very present, very aware, very clear. And there will be times when you feel lost again, identified again, caught in the dream again. This is natural. This is part of the process. Do not judge yourself for it. Do not make it into a problem. Simply notice it and come back to presence. Again and again and again. This is the practice. Not a practice to achieve something, but a practice to remember what you already are. Not a practice to become enlightened, but a practice to recognize that you are already the awareness you are seeking. Not a practice to get somewhere, but a practice to be here fully, completely, now. And the beautiful thing is that you cannot fail at this practice. Because even when you're lost in thought, even when you are identified with the ego, even when you're caught in a dream, the awareness is still here. It never leaves. It cannot leave. It is what you are. And the moment you remember, the moment you notice, the moment you come back to presence, you are home. You are here. You are what you have always been. So be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. This is not a race. This is not a competition. This is not about being better than others or even better than you were yesterday. This is simply about being present, being aware, being here now. And that is always available, always possible, always within reach. Just take a breath. Feel the air moving in and out. Feel the aliveness in your body. Feel the awareness that is reading these words, hearing these sounds, experiencing this moment. That awareness is what you are, not the thoughts about it, not the concepts, not the understanding, but the awareness itself, the silent witness, the spacious presence, the consciousness that is always here, always now, always at peace. And from this awareness, from this presence, from this peace, you can meet whatever life brings. You can meet joy without clinging to it. You can meet sorrow without being destroyed by it. You can meet success without being inflated by it. You can meet failure without being diminished by it, because you know that none of it touches what you truly are. None of it affects the awareness that witnesses it all. None of it changes the presence that is always here. This is true freedom. Not freedom from life, but freedom in life. Not freedom from challenges, but freedom to meet challenges with presence, with clarity, with a deep trust in the intelligence of life itself. Not freedom from emotions, but freedom to feel emotions fully without being identified with them, without believing that they are who you are. And this freedom is available to you right now, not in some future moment when you have meditated enough, read enough books, attended enough retreats. Right now, in this moment, simply by being present, by being aware, by resting in the consciousness that you are. Can you feel it? Can you sense it? The peace that is always here, beneath the surface turbulence, the stillness that is always present, beneath the movement, the silence that is always here, beneath the sound. It is not something you need to create or achieve. It is what you are. It is your true nature. It is the ground of your being. And when you rest in this ground, when you abide in this nature, when you live from this awareness, everything changes. Not the external circumstances, necessarily, but your relationship to them. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You are no longer dependent on things being a certain way for you to be at peace. You have found a peace that is independent of circumstances, the peace that is your true nature, the peace that you are, and this peace radiates. It touches others. It affects the world, not in a way that you can measure or control, but in subtle, mysterious ways. Your presence becomes a gift. Your awareness becomes a blessing. Your peace becomes a healing force in a world that is so desperately in need of healing. But you are not trying to heal the world. You are not trying to save anyone. You are simply being what you are. And what you are is awareness, is presence, is consciousness itself. And that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. So let us return once more to the beginning, to the breath, to the simple act of being here, because this is where it all starts and where it all ends. This is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, the present moment, the eternal now, the awareness that is always here. And in this awareness, there is no problem, there is no lack, there is no incompleteness. There is only this, only now, only the dance of consciousness with itself, the play of awareness in the field of form, the expression of the one life that is all life. And you are that. You have always been that. You will always be that. Not you as a person, not you as a body, not you as a story, but you as awareness, as presence, as consciousness itself. This is what you are. This is what you have always been. This is what you can never not be. And the recognition of this is the end of seeking, the end of suffering, the end of the sense of being a separate self struggling to survive in a hostile world. It is the beginning of a new way of living, a new way of being, a new way of relating to life, a way that is rooted in presence, grounded in awareness, flowing from consciousness itself. This is the gift. This is the blessing. This is the grace. Not something you earn or deserve, but something you are. Not something you achieve or attain, but something you recognize, something you remember, something you come home to. And the coming home is always available, always here, always now, in this breath, in this moment, in this awareness that is reading these words, hearing these sounds, experiencing this life. Welcome home. You have never left. You have only forgotten for a while. And now you remember. And the remembering is not a thought, not a concept, not a belief. It is a direct recognition, a lived reality, a felt sense of being what you have always been. You are awareness. You are presence. You are consciousness itself. And this is the truth that sets you free. Not free from life, but free to live. Not free from challenges, but free to meet them with grace. Not free from emotions, but free to feel them without being overwhelmed by them. This is the freedom that comes from seeing what others do not see. The freedom that comes from recognizing what you truly are. The freedom that comes from resting in awareness, abiding in presence, living from consciousness itself. And this freedom is your birthright. It is not reserved for the special few, the enlightened masters, the spiritual elite. It is available to everyone because it is what everyone is. It is the true nature of all beings, the essence of all life, the ground of all existence. But not everyone sees it. Not everyone recognizes it. Not everyone is ready to let go of the dream, to release the story, to surrender the ego. And that is okay. There is no judgment in this. There is no right or wrong. There is only the natural unfolding of consciousness, waking up to itself at its own pace, in its own time, through its own unique expression. And if you are hearing these words, if you're feeling the truth in them, if something in you is recognizing what is being pointed to, then perhaps it is your time. Perhaps you are ready. Perhaps the seed that was planted long ago is ready to sprout, to grow, to blossom into the full recognition of what you are. And if that is so, then welcome. Welcome to the journey that is not a journey. Welcome to the path that has no distance. Welcome to the awakening that is simply a remembering of what you have always been. The way is simple. Be present. Be aware. Be here now. That is all. Everything else will unfold from that. Everything else will be taken care of. Everything else is secondary to this one essential practice. Being present, being aware, being consciousness itself. And as you practice this, as you live this, as you embody this, you will discover that it is not a practice at all. It is simply what you are. It is your natural state. It is the way you were always meant to live, before you forgot, before you got lost in thought, before you identified with the story of being a separate self. And the return to this natural state is not difficult. It is the easiest thing in the world, because you are not trying to become something you are not. You are simply recognizing what you already are. You are not trying to achieve some special state. You are simply resting in the awareness that is always here. You are not trying to get somewhere. You are simply being here now, fully, completely, and in this being there is everything. There is peace. There is joy. There is love. There is freedom. There is wholeness. There is completion. Not because you have acquired these things, but because you have recognized that they are your nature, that they are what you are, that they have always been here, waiting for you to notice them. So notice, pay attention, be aware, not of the content of awareness, but of awareness itself, not of the thoughts, but of the space in which thoughts arise, not of the emotions, but of the presence that witnesses emotions, not of the sensations, but of the consciousness that experiences sensations. This is the shift. This is the awakening. This is the recognition. From being lost in the content to resting as the context. From being identified with the wave to recognizing yourself as the ocean. From being the character in the dream to waking up as the dreamer. And when you wake up, when you recognize what you are, you do not leave the dream. You continue to participate in it. You continue to play your role. But you know it is a dream. You know it is a play. You know it is not ultimately real. And this knowing changes everything. You can still feel emotions, but you are not overwhelmed by them. You can still have preferences, but you are not attached to them. You can still engage with life, but you are not dependent on it for your peace, for your happiness, for your sense of being okay. Because you have found the okayness that is independent of circumstances. You have found the peace that does not depend on things being a certain way. You have found the joy that is not conditional on getting what you want. You have found what you were always seeking, and you have found it where it always was. Here now, in awareness that you are, and this finding is not the end. It is the beginning. The beginning of a life lived from presence rather than from thought. The beginning of a life lived from awareness rather than from ego. The beginning of a life lived from love rather than from fear. This life is not perfect. It still has challenges. It still has difficulties. It still has pain. But the pain is no longer suffering. The challenges are no longer problems. The difficulties are no longer obstacles. They are simply what is arising in this moment, and you meet them with presence, with awareness, with a deep trust that life knows what it is doing, that consciousness is unfolding exactly as it needs to unfold. And in this trust, there is a deep relaxation, a letting go of the need to control, to know, to figure it all out, a surrender to the mystery, to the unknown, to the intelligence that is orchestrating everything. And in this surrender, there is freedom. The freedom to be fully alive, fully present, fully here. This is what it means to see what others do not see. To see that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. To see that you are not a separate self struggling to survive, but consciousness itself, playing at being human, experiencing itself through this particular form. To see that there is no separation, no other, no enemy, only the one life expressing itself as the many. And when you see this, when you live from this seeing, you become a blessing to the world. Not because you are trying to be a blessing, but because you are allowing life to bless itself through you. You are allowing love to express itself. You are allowing consciousness to do what it naturally does, which is to create, to connect, to care, to celebrate itself in all its forms. And so we come to the end of these words, though there is no end to the truth they point to. The truth is eternal, ever present, always here. These words will fade, will be forgotten, will dissolve back into the silence from which they came. But the truth remains. The awareness remains. The presence remains. And you remain, not you as a person, not you as a body, not you as a story, but you as awareness, as presence, as consciousness itself. You remain as what you have always been, what you are now, what you will always be, the eternal witness, the unchanging presence, the consciousness that is the source and substance of all that is. And this is not a belief. This is not a philosophy. This is not a concept to understand. This is the living reality of what you are, and it can only be known by being it, by resting in it, by living from it. So rest, be still, be present, be aware, and in that awareness, you will find everything you have been seeking. You will find the peace that passes understanding. You will find the joy that needs no reason. You will find the love that is the nature of consciousness itself. And you will find yourself, not the self you thought you were, but the self you truly are, not the small, separate, struggling self, but the infinite, eternal, ever-present self that is one with all, not the self that is born and dies, but the self that was never born and can never die. This is who you are. This is what you are. This is the truth that has been hidden in plain sight all along, waiting for you to see it, to recognize it, to remember it. And now you know, not with the mind, but with a deeper knowing, not as a concept, but as a lived reality, not as something you have learned, but as something you have always been. You are awareness. You are presence. You are consciousness itself. And this knowing is the end of seeking, the end of suffering, the end of the dream of separation. Welcome home. You have arrived, not at a destination, but at the recognition that you never left. You have always been here. You have always been home. You have always been what you are. And what you are is love, is peace, is joy, is freedom, is the one consciousness that is all, expressing itself as you, living itself as you, knowing itself as you. This is the gift. This is the grace. This is the truth that sets you free. And now, the words fade, but the silence remains. If you felt the stillness within this message, stay. Subscribe, not to follow, but to remember, again and again, that presence is always here, waiting beneath every thought. The true teaching is not in the words you just heard, but in the space between them.